Hello everyone, it's Wacky Anime What If here to present you with What If Issei Had Venom, Part 5. Let's go ahead and get into it. Currently, Issei Hyoto has just now opened the door. Right as he opened the ORC door, he immediately sees that there's a wild Konako on the couch, munching on a chocolate bar, before staring at Issei with just bored eyes. Immediately, Issei says to Venom in his head, "Do it." Venom detaches a little piece unnoticed by everyone, and it goes directly behind the couch. Just literally does the stealthiest mission ever. Goes all the way into a chocolate bar. The next chocolate bar that Konako eats will be the same surprise as before. Issei's gonna have so much fun doing that again. He starts laughing just thinking about her reaction. No, everyone else's reaction too. He thinks about this before hearing a shower and thinking, hold up, is someone taking a shower? And immediately notices that there is a chick with massive cans right in front of him. But she has this sort of vibe that makes him not want to go near her that much. It actually kind of freaks him out a little bit, so he's scooching into the room, like, away from her, and she's just scooching, like, a little inches towards him, and Issei's trying to, like, scooch further away. He just straight up sits down on the couch, and she sits down right next to him, and he's trying to get comfortable. She scooches near him again, like, right beside him, and Issei pays no mind. He thinks, okay, maybe she's trying to get comfortable too, as long as she doesn't get too close. And he immediately hears something, looks towards her, and she's just skirmishing right next to him. And Issei says, "Oh no!" Just moves like through the couch, like keeps on scooching to the side. So does Akeno, and this happens until he starts rapidly scooching to the side, while Akeno does the same thing, and they just crash right into Konako. Like, Issei crashes directly into Konako right beside her, making her drop her chocolate bar. And then she just has, like, eyes that just say all around me are familiar, you know. But anyway, the thing is, Issei saw the chocolate bar fell, and immediately thought, well, at least that's not the one that Venom's in. She looks at him with the immense pissed face, and Issei says, well, honestly, you should be thanking me. Chocolate isn't good for you. And immediately she says, well, why not? And Issei says, well, you'll get cavities. She says, I don't care. And Issei says, okay. Also, hey, did you know that chocolate bars might actually try to eat people one day? Immediately she says, I don't believe you. And she says that, but she starts shaking because she just has a flashback to when the chocolate bar just literally, she has a flashback of when the cookie ended up saying, in Japan, you eat cookie, but in Mother Russia, cookie eat you. And she starts shuddering. And Akeno is just wondering why Konoko's shuddering. And Issei just literally is like trying not to burst out laughing, but is horribly failing. He starts laughing a little bit while watching her shudder, and he says, oh my god, she looks like a kitten. She looks like a cold kitten. And immediately, before anything else can happen, Rias opens the door, has on just a towel, and walks in, sits down, and is about to go sit down to grab her clothes. She grabs her clothes, walks directly behind a literal curtain. She starts changing directly in the room with ORC, and Issei's just paying no attention to this because he just said, oh my god, something smells rancid. And Venom, who's in his head, just starts laughing, and then he says, yeah, honestly, she does smell rancid. I'm gonna be honest, that's one person I actually wouldn't eat, and that's really saying something. Well, Issei starts chuckling about that. They're both chuckling in his head. He's chuckling out loud, and Kiba's just like scooching to the side because he doesn't know when he's gonna snap or anything, and him laughing to himself, looking like an absolute madman, is not helping his case, and it makes Akeno just scoot towards him more. And Issei just sees that she placed a hand directly on his shoulder, and he says out loud, I need an adult. And she looks at him and says, I am an adult. And he says, no, you're not. Someone help. He says while looking at Konako and saying, please help me. And she immediately just looks at him and says, no. And he says in his mind, well, Venom, do it. Venom just goes into a chocolate bar. The next chocolate bar she pulls out is going to happen. But that's going to happen later. Because Rias appeared behind the curtain, fully dressed, walking towards the front of the room, sitting down in her chair, looking at Issei, and saying, hello there, Issei Hyodo. Do you believe in the supernatural? While Issei says, yeah, I don't really believe in the supernatural. Totally. I mean, there's totally not a voice in my head saying that they want chocolate right now, and it's not speaking to me, I'm speaking back to it. Totally not happening. While Rita said, that's an odd thing to say, but, okay. And she starts questioning, is this boy insane? I hope he's not. And immediately he says, but on your questions about supernatural, yeah, I believe in it because these chess pieces came out of my chest earlier. He pulls out of his pocket 8 pawn pieces, which everyone's eyes go wide, and he slams them on the actual table in front of Rias and says, I hope this isn't your doing, because if it is, then I'm going to have to kindly ask you to fuck off before I make you. And immediately keep a feeling of hostile intent, literally just uses sword birth, has a sword just appear into his hand, and swings it directly at Issei, stopping right at his neck. And Issei just looks at him, looks at the sword, looks back at him, and Kiba says, don't talk to Madam President like that. And Issei says, does it look like I give a fuck? While Kiba stares into his face, and he just has like a blank face, and he just says, yeah, you know what? Do you think I'm scared of this? And he immediately says, you're supposed to be. This is a sword. And Issei says, well, doesn't every guy have a sword technically? And he says, no, not every guy has an actual sword. And immediately Issei just smiles a shit-eating grin. And says, oh, that means you don't have a dick. Ah, well, isn't that bad? While he says, wait, that isn't what I meant. And Issei says, well, you just said you didn't have a sword, so... And he immediately said, well, you said that not every guy has a sword. I mean, you're probably speaking from experience. And he says, that's not what I meant. And he just starts having like a red face from anger. And he says, but anyway, the main reason why I'm not scared about this is because I can single-handedly beat the fuck out of you, even if you have that sword. You know what? You threaten me with that sword again, and I'm going to shove it up your ass. And immediately, that scared Kiba just a little bit, because he's having flashbacks of when he used him as a human pinata. So he just, like, removes the sword, and he just looks back towards Rias and says, alright, so let's go ahead and continue with the big kids talking. Kiba, stay out of it. And Kiba's just, like, still mad. He's fuming a little bit now. And Issei says, so I'm just going to go ahead and say this. So what I can assume this is you trying to turn me into whatever you guys are, and essentially trying to enslave me. And she says, no, I was going to turn you into my servant, while Issei says, so enslave me. And she says, no, it isn't like that. I treat my servants like family. And Issei says, so do you let them do everything that they want for themselves? You don't order them around? And immediately says, no, I order them around. And Issei says, so what's the difference? And she says, well, I treat them kindly. And Issei says, do they get paid? And immediately, she says, well, not really. And Issei just looks around and just says, so all you guys are working for free, on your own will. You're all bitches, he says. And he immediately thinks, I'm definitely not joining them. Immediately, Rhea says, so how did you get these out of you exactly? And Issei says, well, this is how it happened. Fuck you, that's how. And Kiba immediately has the sword directly under his neck again. And Issei this time quickly grabs the sword, stands up, kicks him in the gut, causes him to literally hold his gut and look downwards. Issei just lifts up his leg and literally drops it downwards on the back of Kiba's skull, causing him to fall face forward into the table that Rias was in, breaking said table, and Issei immediately grabs his sword directly out of his hands and says, you know what I said I was going to do with this sword, right? And Kiba just has his eyes widened, and he says, you're not actually going to do that, right? That's murder. And Issei says, oh, at this point, I don't care. And he immediately says, so go ahead and, get in position. You know what's going to happen. And immediately says, no, please. While Issei says, yeah, there is no second chances. While trying to shove the sword up his ass. And literally everyone holding him back. Like, Konigo is literally trying to hold Issei back. So was Akuno, and heck, even Rias is, from literally murdering Kiba right now. And they really can't hold him back for shit. Because he's using Venom's strength into his actual muscles and bones just to overpower them. He's not even using the full amount of Venom. Like, he's not in the Venom suit or anything. It's just under his skin. The majority of Venom is. One little piece of it's still in the chocolate bar, but hey, you'll get to that later. So he's still shoving the sword directly at his ass. And immediately, an hour later, POV change, an hour later, Issei is currently sitting down on the couch saying, so where were we again? And currently Kiba is literally being teleported all the way to the underworld to remove said sword, which was shoved quite up his rear, out. And let's just say he's not enjoying it, while Akuno is currently envious that didn't happen to her, and Issei is shuddering because he felt as if something really creepy just happened. And Issei just looked towards Rias and says, so for the 100th time, no, and definitely no, and fuck no, he says. And he says, before I leave, I got a present for you. He literally puts his arm directly in front of his balled up fist he has directly in front of Rias's face, and then he starts mockingly reeling his arm, like as if he was reeling, one of those Jack in the Boxes, like if he was reeling that, and his middle finger slowly pulls out, and he says, that's what my present is. And he was about to walk out, but Akuno tries to stop him by holding his arm, trying to hold him back so where Rias can try to convince him, but no, Issei was not having that. So immediately he grabbed her arm and literally just said, you know what? Yeet! Just yeeted Akuno directly out of the window. And the worst part is when the shards got into her skin, she was moaning, and Issei just started shuddering, saying, the fuck just happened? Before looking at Rias, who was just about to fire a thing of destructive magic at him, mind you, because he initiated a second attack, this time not in self-defense. And right when she was about to fire it directly at Issei literally just says, hey Venom, go ahead and do it. Venom just takes over. Literally, you just see this black liquid go all the way over Issei, and then you see this monstrosity known as Venom just form around him, and he just walks up towards a now shaking Rias, who's firing destruction magic directly at him. But all that Venom does, lift up his right hand, and literal black darkness, just straight up, the black liquid just surrounds the destructive magic and just absorbs it, and then he adapts to it. Like, Venom just adapts to it and just unlocks that now. Just slightly, but it's not that good. It's not even near as much as, the Rias household, as the Gremory household, but still, he has it now. But right when that happened, Rias was definitely even more fierce, starting to shake violently now. Before Venom walks up towards her face, it literally opens his mouth wide open, about to bite her head off, but then all of a sudden his nose gets a sniff, and then he ends up closing his mouth, picking her up, and she's confused about what's happening, and then he just yeets her out the window and says, "Bitch, rancid." And Issei just starts bursting out laughing while Venom peels off of him, just goes right back into his body. And Konako, who just witnessed that, literally saw Issei stare at her and says, "You got a problem?" And she just looked back towards her chocolate bar wrapper and says, "No, I don't get a problem." She's like, "I'm just gonna go ahead and eat my chocolate in peace." She opens the chocolate bar, and immediately Venom's face has popped out in the chocolate bar. It's a surprise, motherfucker! And immediately Venom says, "In Japan, you eat chocolate, but in Mother Russia, chocolate fight you." And immediately Venom just forms like chocolate hands, just so you know, like the chocolate bar just forms chocolate hands, like little chocolate hands pop out of it, covered in chocolate, and it punches Konako directly in the face and starts wailing on her. Konako is getting beat up by a chocolate bar, and Issei just laughing at this madness before walking out and just going home. While everyone that's either unconscious or awake is thinking, what the fuck just happened in that room? And that's where I'm ending What If Issei Had Venom. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure you smash